And we are live. It is Friday, right?
Yes.
Uh, it is Friday, July 31st, 2020, 5 o'clock p.m. It has been a frickin' long day because I got up at 5:30 this morning to do Morning Joe from the cabin in the woods, which I have never done television from the cabin in the woods, and there is
Wait.
just
Wasn't that a scary movie? Cabin in the Woods? Wasn't that
it
horror?
was. That's why I call this place the cabin in the woods. Um, and I thought it was going to be fine to do, but then I realized at 5:30 in the morning that there is no good spot to do television in the cabin because the cabin the good spot to do television is out here on the porch, but at 5:30 in the morning it is still dark. And so 5:30 in the morning I'm standing around saying, "Where can I put the camera that I will not wake up my poor sleeping wife, that Room Raider will not flay me, and that it will not be dark?" So I found the one spot. I seem to have not antagonized Room Raider, and that was the beginning of a long and stressful day. We are not allowed to have fun anymore, and we're not going to talk about, all those crazy fucking things that happened today. Kate, you have the monologue before we introduce our guest in her cocktail dress with fancy earrings. There we go. The best dressed person ever on In Lieu of Fun.
Wait, Katie, I gotta kind of see this dress. So you were texting us and you're like, do I need to dress up?
No,
and I'm
you
like,
see it. It's like,
oh my God.
yeah,
This is like
no joke.
You said cocktail dress. There's a cocktail dress.
Holy shit. Like, I've like literally never I haven't seen a person in a cocktail dress in like, well, actually about like 4 months, like 5 months.
I knew I was going to be on today, and I was so honored and excited that I made sure that I wore my cocktail dress for this.
It looks so good. I told Ben that I went into my bedroom and I opened the closet. Oh, Ben, you're muted. Oh, I think you are, if you were trying to talk. Anyways, I told Ben that I went into the closet.
And tomorrow is your birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Katie.
Birthday. Oh, thank you. Wait.
I was just saying, and tomorrow is your birthday.
Tomorrow is my birthday.
Are you 28?
It's the secret of good Asian genes that I look 28, but no, I'm 45 tomorrow.
Wait, is that a joke?
No.
Really?
Wait, the Asian genes part is not a joke.
Okay.
It's not a joke. No, 45 tomorrow.
I was like, she's probably like my age. She's probably like 35. And then I was like, I'll go with 28 just in case. Wow.
From your
that
mouth
was
to God's ears. No, 45 tomorrow.
Damn. Jesus. Okay.
John Bordeaux points out that that's halfway to 90.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question. If you're 45, does that mean that I'm in my mid-40s, or am I now in kind of closer to my late 40s? Like, what do you say that if somebody says how
So
old?
I'm closer to 100 than I am to birth, which is like really an upsetting thought when you pause on it. I don't feel old, but when you cast 50, pushing 51 as rounding up, right, to the nearest hundred, it's going to round to 100, not to 0. So in that sense, math sucks, and we don't do it. Whoops, did we just lose Katie? There she is.
So I'm gonna interrupt because I have to get to this thing that I've been dying to show all day.
And Katie, you're muted.
And Katie already knows. Yeah, you're muted, Katie.
Unmute yourself. You somehow got muted.
Did you mute her, Ben?
I did not mute her.
Oh, no. Do you think this is like what happened with Alex?
I think it is what happened with Alex.
Oh.
Katie, I'm going to dismiss you and bring you back in while Kate is talking.
Okay. So we're not going to talk about what happened today, except for one that happened in the Washington Post with Shane Harris, who was previously on In Lieu of Fun, and starring Ben. But except to say that to read this one line that said, a memo by the department's top intelligence official, which was tweeted by the editor of Lawfare, says personnel relied on FinTel, an acronym for financial intelligence, as well as finished intelligence, baseball cards of arrested protesters to understand their motivations and plans. And I mention this because Katie Phang, before coming on the show today, said that she was not going to share her collection of Ben Wittes baseball cards. And then it occurred to me that what the world needs is some Ben Wittes baseball cards.
Oh, no.
And so I bring you this amazing moment of Ben Wittes. And we actually swapped out Ted Williams here, Ben. You should feel very honored.
That's
and
great.
then we didn't think that this was quite enough, and so we did this one. Let's see if let me hold on. This is pretty good. This is my
Meanwhile,
favorite.
I can't get Katie back in.
Really?
Yeah.
Is she there?
She's there. But you keep showing baseball cards, and I'll keep working on getting Katie back.
Okay. And then this is, so that was your rookie card, Ben. But this is your, I think this is the winner. I mostly like that it says, instead of like first base and outfield, it's like one out. It's in lieu of fun. It's pretty good. John Bordeaux got my joke. It's pretty excellent. Anyways,
that is excellent.
I think that you have so much to be proud of, and everyone should collect them all.
You know, I was at one point part of a bizarre trading card series made mockingly called the Heroes of Empire. They were mocking and they were insulting, and I thought it was pretty cool to have my own trading card. But Katie is missing now, and we have lost our guest. She texts me that she is trying to get back in. Every time I see her, I am trying to bring her in. Wait, is that her again? No, that's somebody named Jennifer Davis. And that's Blake Reed. And there's Katie Phang. So, all right, we're clicking the invite on screen.
Blake Reed, by the way, did the incredible work for the second baseball card, your non-rookie card. I'm terrible at, I had the concept but not the skills to pull this off, so I asked for some help from the internet, and that was hi Katie.
Okay, Katie's back. Don't run away again.
I was so jealous that Ben had his own trading card that I had to go cry for a little bit, and so now I'm back now.
So, Katie Phang.
How are you?
You have an incredible distinction, which is you have an actual vibrant, diverse law practice in a city that is not Washington or New York, which makes you pretty different from other television commentators on all the issues that you talk about on television. So I want to start with how do you do the whole running a law like an actual real law practice, with clients and some of whom are criminal, not along with the whole.
Is it me or is Ben like?
No, it's not you.
An alternate universe.
Yes, Ben is in an alternate universe. Like Ben is like, Like that's basically like what your sound is like right now. But I think he was saying is how do you run an actual law practice and balance that against everything else that you're actually doing and do it from Miami? Is that kind of correct, Ben?
I think that's what I heard. So yeah, so I have a full-time law practice that I run, and I mean, admittedly, during the pandemic, things have slowed down in terms of TV appearances. But generally speaking, I'm on TV at least 2, maybe 5 times a week. When we're not dealing with COVID-19. It's hard because with an active law practice, I have client needs that need to be met, from hearings to depots to mediations to even trial. Like I have a trial next week via Zoom. It's a bench trial, but it's a 2-day bench trial starting on Monday via Zoom. And so I have to do all the prep and everything, adjust to now being a remote trial lawyer, still bring in the work, be a generator that way, and then also try to keep an active profile on social media and keep people informed and aware as much as possible. So it's not easy, but listen, we also are like the fraud capital of the world, and so Florida has that distinct, I guess, honor of fraud centers, epicenters. So we're able to keep me busy, but I do a lot of civil work. I do a lot of commercial litigation in addition to the criminal work, but I do a lot of commercial litigation.
All right, so let's first find out. Can people hear me now?
Kind of. You're very quiet.
You sound very
And
far
I'm getting
away.
an echo, so I think that your volume is up on your speaker, and this is why we don't have a producer. This is what it's like almost every day. It's kind of like part of the charm, Katie. You're living through it. Did you just do a beauty queen wave at someone?
At my FedEx driver.
Oh.
He's like,
why is this lady hanging out in formal wear?
Because that's like my window. So he was walking up to deliver my Chewy box with my dog's toys and my dog's food, and so I waved at him when he waved at me. So
cute. So you do a lot of commercial litigation, you do criminal work. Which do you prefer? Like, do you like the commercial litigation at all? Is it kind of like a nice change of pace?
And anything that gets me in court, I like, right? So trial lawyers, we're a dying breed. A lot of people don't go to trial anymore. So any opportunity to go to court, to litigate, to argue, that's what I do, and that's what I like doing the most. But, for example, I had this crazy depo that lasted like 8+ hours on Wednesday, and it still didn't finish. And even though it's not in court, it's still interesting because it's a chess game. It's trying to think ahead and see what you can elicit out of somebody. Same thing if you're in court and you're questioning a witness, it's the same concept. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't have a preference necessarily. I just enjoy doing what I'm doing, but I also love TV because it's live and you kind of have to think on your feet. Not kind of, but you do. But I also on TV, even for a 3 or 4 minute hit, I do a lot of research. I'll go to Pacer, I'll go to Westlaw. I'll make sure that I do the homework so that I don't sound like a total ass when I speak. I mean, I can't guarantee that I don't sound like a total ass, but
most people don't mind that, though.
Correct when I sound like an ass,
Yeah, so let me ask you about that, because most people don't actually mind when they go on television and sound like a total ass. Why do you?
Because it's like if you go to the doctor, right? You go to a doctor because you have something wrong, and you're going to the doctor so that he or she can diagnose you, hopefully, and tell you what's wrong. Same concept. If you're hiring a lawyer, you want a lawyer to listen to you and tell you what your issues are and give you maybe a path to resolution. Same thing on TV. If I'm being asked a question on TV, I don't want to mislead people, and I certainly don't want to tell them the wrong law. And so I think it's crucial that if you're appearing as an analyst or some type of contributor in an area that's unique to either your profession, your practice, and you're not just being asked like a man on the street interview, like, hey, Kate, how do you feel about X? Like, that's a different situation than when somebody says, what is the law on this? Or what happens when you go to court on this? So I take that very seriously. So that's why I try to do homework before I end up on TV.
So I am interested in the relationship between your practice life and your television life. For some lawyers who go on TV, they go on TV to support their practice, right? They get visible, that generates clients, etc. Some lawyers just love being on TV because they actually practice law to be on TV, not the other way around. Um, for you, is the television commentating in support of the practice? Is the practice in support of a public role, or are they basically unconnected?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, because I thought I was muted. So to answer your question, Ben, a common misconception is that because you're on TV, like people are beating a path to your door to hire you to work for them. Maybe that happens to other people, like Alan Dershowitz, for example. Maybe. That's not what happens on a regular basis. Have I generated work from being on TV? Absolutely. I think more often what happens is if you're skilled at your craft and you do a good job, the name recognition and the kind of word of mouth referral system works to your benefit. But then if you're on TV, sometimes the recognition of you maybe edges you out from some other equally as skilled lawyer, maybe even better. But I don't count on my TV to generate my work for me. And I actually count on my work, though, to make me a better TV lawyer. But all of that being said, I will tell you this because I've noticed this is happening to me. Even when I go to court now, a little bit of my TV style is starting to bleed into my lawyer style in court, which is not necessarily a good thing sometimes, because depending if you're in federal or state court, there's a certain level of decorum you're supposed to have. And there's a kind of quippy nature that you get when you're on TV because you talk in sound bites and you only have like 3 minutes to convey some type of analysis or message. So I've found that it can kind of bleed into each other a little bit. But from a pure business standpoint, I certainly do not rely upon my TV to be able to put food on my table at this point.
Yeah. I think that it, especially if you're in practice by yourself and not as part of a small firm or starting a small firm, and there's a lot less wiggle room in terms of like what's coming in and what you decide to take on, and everything else is a case, and drawing in new clients. My dad was was in private practice for his entire career after being a public defender for a while and for a couple of years. And then, so I mean, he did everything. It really was like kind of a jack of all trades. I mean, he did real estate transactions, wills, estates. He did criminal defense. He did commercial litigation, adoptions, like, occasional divorces. Like, it was just kind of like a real country lawyer type of thing. But you are in Miami. So like, did you always kind of want to do criminal work and you do commercial litigation because that was the thing that kind of like ended up kind of paying the bills? Or like, how did you find your way into starting your own practice?
So there's a joke. It's like, do you practice door law? As in like whatever walks in the door?
Right.
Is that what you practice?
I've actually never heard that. That's really good.
I practice door law. How about you? Sure, I practice door law. So I started my career as a prosecutor, literally straight out of law school, took the bar exam, went straight to the state attorney's office in Miami, and spent 5.5 years as a prosecutor. Started as a misdemeanor prosecutor doing DUIs and petty thefts. But after 5 weeks of training, we ended up in court, and I tried a DUI case starting on day one. Wow. And then when I left, I was a division chief, and I was trying death penalty cases on behalf of the state attorney in Miami-Dade County. So when I left doing that, I went into private practice because I knew I did not want to be branded a career prosecutor. A, I wanted to make more money, and B, I wanted to also be a little bit more of a well-rounded lawyer. So I went into private practice after being a prosecutor for 5.5 years. And I did the private practice thing for a while, but then I went back to being a prosecutor again for a number of years after that. I'd say about half my career has been spent in criminal law as a prosecutor. When it comes to the criminal defense work, I enjoy that, but I think that there's a part of me that says there's an intellectual dishonesty about how I represent people in the criminal defense cases, because I did spend so much time as a prosecutor. It's very hard for me to just abandon the, pro law enforcement component of who I am. But I've seen a lot of ugliness, and I've seen a lot of bullshit. There were certain departments when I was a prosecutor that you just couldn't look at an affidavit and believe what was put into the affidavit. For a search arrest warrant or whatever. Like, you just knew who was full of shit and who had the credibility, like in terms of a detective or an officer. So the whole bad apples in every bunch axiom totally stands true. Same thing for lawyers, I think, too. But I think that, for example, I don't represent somebody who's been accused of rape or sexual assault. I don't represent anybody who's been accused of homicide. I mean, there's a part of me that probably should, from a constitutional standpoint, say that every person's entitled under the Constitution to a defense. But there's a part of me that says that I would be intellectually dishonest if I were to do it for a fee or otherwise, right? So to some extent, I'm exceptionally picky about what I take in terms of criminal defense. Same thing, though, also from even the commercial litigation standpoint. I've been practicing for more than 20 years now. I have the luxury of turning down cases if I don't want to take them for whatever reason. My firm is about 5 people now, so it's not just me. So, I mean, there's a business component where I know I have to, meet the overhead, et cetera. But I also think that if we're going to be doing work, we should be doing work that's fun and interesting, to the extent that law can be fun and interesting.
So I'm interested in the lines that you've drawn. So you've drawn a line that says you won't represent somebody accused of homicide. Presumably, that means even if you believe the person may be innocent. You won't represent somebody accused of rape or sexual assault. But there's a lot of crimes that aren't homicide and aren't sexual assault or rape that involve genuine sleazeballs. So my question is, so if the principle is I won't represent somebody in a criminal case I think is a sleazeball, then you got to include the armed robberies and the lots of people who's just sleaziness, just the attempted murderers, the people who just aren't very good at it. So the principle isn't sleazeball. The principle isn't no sleazeballs. The principle isn't nobody who's it's not I'll only represent people who I think are not guilty, or I think there's a real injustice. So what is the principle that separates the murder and rape and sexual assault cases, including the presumably not guilty people accused of those things, from the cases where the person may be a real snake and guilty as hell, and you would represent him because he's only accused of, say, armed robbery and attempted murder?
Yeah, let me also create another kind of subset of cases that I won't do, and it involves children, the harming of children. What I think? It's the what is the way to put it, guys? When I was a prosecutor, one of the last questions you were asked when you were interviewed to become a prosecutor was your position on the death penalty. That was asked of you. Of all prosecutors that were going through the interview process, what is your position on the death penalty? And my answer was always, I'll apply the law, and if the law is that the death penalty is applicable, then that's what we do, right? And I had cases that had the death penalty on the table when I was prosecutor. People think that cases like first-degree murder cases, premeditated murder, that they're always going to have the death penalty. Not true. We waive death on a lot of cases. So even though it may be a grand jury return on an indictment, or it may end up being a straight first-degree murder indictment or information, a lot of times death got waived through consultation with family or whatever analysis it was. But I'm a believer in the death penalty if you harm a child. And I'm a believer in the death penalty in that regard. And even though people will probably say, how can you do that if you're a progressive liberal? That's just who I am, and that's just the honesty of who I am. I think the application of that concept kind of bleeds into my work when I do criminal defense, which is, I don't know if I could disassociate or disengage that mentality that I have about that, and be able to be an effective lawyer. I just don't think I could, Ben. I just don't think that I could. And I think that, yes, you're right. Listen, there's some sleazy people in civil cases. Some of the sleaziest people that I've met are fraudsters. Maybe they don't get charged with criminal theft. Ponzi schemers, right? I mean, they are some of the sleaziest, shadiest people, and they're in civil. listen, I do family law. Some of the shadiest shit I see is in family law cases, right? With sleazy people in family law cases. But I've drawn a line there, and part of it is just gut instinct. And I'm a mom. I have a soon-to-be 6-year-old daughter. I think that drives part of the analysis for me too, which is why I feel like it's just better for me to just kind of carve that area out and say I'm just not going to do that. But I am a firm believer, though, that you're presumptively innocent before you are found guilty, and that the Constitution exists for a reason, which is why to let me just kind of get on my soapbox for a second. I think people need to understand that the defund the police concept thing that's been going on right now, what's kind of important about this is for people to understand that as a prosecutor, if you are a shitty cop, you gave me a bad case. And if there's going to be stuff like constitutional violations because you're a bad cop, I'm going to have a problem with your case because I'm going to have a problem proving your case. And so I think people should appreciate that the defund the police thing is not let's get rid of the cops. It's like make sure they have the proper training and the experience so that they can give you as a prosecutor the right kind of case. Because if not, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time and money. People's liberties are at stake if you don't do the right thing as a cop. So I remember if I had cases that were bad, I lost them on motions to suppress and otherwise when there were constitutional violations. Always. That's what happened. So we need to make sure that cops do their job properly because then you have a case that can actually get prosecuted. And I'm off my soapbox.
So you just described yourself as a progressive liberal, which is not the way you would have described yourself, 4 years or 5 years ago. Talk about transformation from Katie 1 to Katie 2, the sequel.
So Katie 1 always believed, I didn't give a shit what you did in the privacy of your home as long as you didn't hurt anybody, right? So you want to be you be you, that's fine. But Katie 1, pre-Trump administration, was a lot more unforgiving about a lot of other things. Always been, quote unquote, fiscally conservative, still am. Would put money under the mattress if I thought it was worth it. But maybe a rhino when it came to some social issues, right? This administration, starting in 2016, has made me so far away from the idea of the GOP and what it used to be. And I was never going to be the person that was going to say, I'll be the last stalwart standing beacon of hope for the GOP and what it used to be. I think that's a crock of shit. I think that the reason why I changed party affiliation, in 2016, I became no party affiliation, independent. And then in December of 2019, I became a Democrat.
But you were a Jeb Bush person, right? I mean, I was
Dole Kemp at Yale in college. I stumped for Bob Dole in college. Like, that's where I was.
But weren't you like a Jeb Bush judicial nominee at one point?
2-time, yeah. Wait. Listen, because I am and will be a strict constructionist, right? I am not an advocate for judicial activism on either side. I don't believe in that whatsoever. I believe that the legislature creates the laws, the judges, apply the laws to the facts to the law, But I am I'm a little bit of a purist about stuff like that. So to the extent, though, that I think there's been a total bastardization of the whole judicial process anyway, I don't want to have anything to do with it anymore.
So
these judges that are taking the bench are not. What
was the turning point for you? So everybody has a moment where they're like, I just can't do this anymore. What was your... No, but like there's the point where Donald Trump gets into the race. There's the point... Was it the nomination?
It was his refute. It was him. It was Donald Trump standing next to Putin. Their little podium bromance bullshit going on. And Donald Trump refusing to acknowledge our intelligence community's findings of the interference with our 2016 election. I remember I watched him do that little dual podium thing. When it was done, I called my husband hysterical repeatedly, like 30 times in a row. He didn't answer the phone. And when he finally answered, he thought there was an emergency. And I said, it's an emergency. And he thought it was about our kid. And I said, no, you don't understand what just happened to our country. You don't understand what just fucking happened to our country. And he thought I was fucking crazy. He said, I'll talk to you later. But then I later told him, I said, it impacts our daughter. It impacts her future. It impacts our life. Do you not understand? So that's my turning point. That was it. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Ben, do you have a turning point for that? Or were you always like, was it just the nomination of Trump? Formally becoming the nominee? Because, I mean, like, I don't think he was taken seriously until that happened.
So I was never a Republican. So it's a little bit different for me because I was kind of a sort of self-conscious, non-affiliated policy guy. And I, worked pretty closely with people in the Bush administration, worked pretty closely with people in the Obama administration. We really tried to make lawfare as completely nonpartisan as we could. And so to me, it wasn't like a point where it was like, I can't do this anymore because I was never doing the sort of Republican thing. That said, there was a point for me where I had to drop the idea that I believed there were two great small d democratic movements in the United States and that I should be kind of neutral between them. And I do remember that moment. It was, it was actually, it was a little bit, it was before Trump was nominated. I wrote a series of pieces for Lawfare that said, hey, this guy looks like he might get the nomination. Let's imagine what the powers of the presidency would actually look like in his hands. And that exercise, which I still think is one of the things that I've ever written that I'm most proud of, it's aged, unfortunately. Gergie, stop yelling.
Jeez. Oh my God, that was so loud.
Yeah, he can be loud.
Wait, what kind of dog is that?
It's a large wolf. No, he's a sweetheart. Come here, Gergie.
He has one eye and very sweet.
Yeah, he's a pirate. That moment was like an identity-changing moment for me. I've never thought of myself as a Democrat, and all of a sudden, I had to think of myself as having a party affiliation sort of for the first time, not because I have any affirmative affiliation with the Democratic Party, just because I don't any longer believe there are two small d democratic movements that each have major themes and ideas to contribute to the political conversation. I think at this point, our politics is a battle between democratic and non-democratic forces. And once you believe that, the stance of nonpartisanship becomes somewhat immoral.
Just look what's happening right now with that ridiculous declaration by Trump about delaying or moving the elections in November. The fact that you don't see, I mean, I appreciate, what's his name? Is it Calabrese? Is that his last name? The guy from the Federalist Society? Like, I appreciate people like that saying, you should be you should go impeach him now and get rid of him. But like the fact that you don't see more of the Senate GOP saying that guy's just fucking crazy, is a bad sign for the GOP, and it makes me feel better about the decision to become a Democrat, because if I felt like there was still some element guarding the concepts that I initially ascribed to when I was younger and I was a Republican, it might make me feel a little bit better, but I couldn't even just stay as an independent. It didn't feel right. I almost felt like you have to be all in. Like, this is legit, like all in existential style. You can't be on the sidelines watching it, because it's that serious. And I felt like being an independent made me on the sidelines in that, and it didn't feel right. I felt like I really had to be in the fray, and I had to pick a side, and I picked a side. The right one, I think. It's
really, I didn't know that you had that background. That's super interesting. I'm curious with your, kind of your comments on the death penalty. I just saw that the death penalty was overturned for the Boston Marathon bomber in the First Circuit. apparently, finding that they did not, let me just look at it really quick. I think that they found that the lower court didn't adequately explore the impact of the pretrial publicity on the jurors who recommended the death sentence. And so, it's going back to, the lower court, but, it could possibly come back up. It would be interesting if it came back up, and then, it would be a very high profile death penalty case for SCOTUS.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I haven't followed it. I haven't followed actually that at all, but I was curious about if you had any thoughts on that, if you had seen that.
No, I didn't. In fact, you know what? I don't know if this is embarrassing to admit, but my latest kind of venture into the Boston Marathon, bomber's world was watching some movie. What's a movie with what's his name? What's that guy? The actor. Oh my God, the guy from he's like, oh my God, somebody knows this, and I'm brain farting. I'm having a senior moment. I'm having a senior birthday.
Oh, it's because you're getting old, Katie.
Shit, what was that? It's the movie that just came out about the Boston Marathon bombers that was on it's out like on Netflix now.
Oh, it's Mark Wahlberg.
Yes.
Oh, someone said it in the chat
Mark,
too.
I know you watch in lieu of fun. I'm sorry that I brain farted on your name.
We have a question from the Big Blue blogger, whose name by reputation is Michael.
Hey, Michael.
Hi, Katie. How
We
you
call
doing?
him Big Blue.
Good.
I'm actually tempted to ask you where you got the dress, because I think it would look great on my middle daughter. But instead, since you happen to be in Florida, and since there seems to be some news coming out of Florida about the Maxwell case and Epstein and Dershowitz, any thoughts, any rumors, any insights from the Sunshine State?
So, thank you, Big Blue. Well, I don't even remember where I got this dress from, to be honest with you. So I have no idea. Okay, so because that was the most important part of that inquiry that you just did. So I happen to know, I didn't know Jeffrey Epstein, and I don't know Ghislaine Maxwell, so I'll just put that out there. But I happen to know a lot of the non-bit players that were involved in this, from Alex Acosta to some of his criminal defense lawyers, to some of the prosecutors, both federal and state. I happen to know them pretty well, actually. And I've always kind of wondered how this thing came to pass in the first place. If you guys will recall, we had a federal judge down here that said that it did violate the Federal Crime Victims' Rights Act, which was a very big deal. That was a huge decision that came, and then the 11th Circuit reversed it and said, no, that it didn't, which I thought was shameful. I really did. Dershowitz, his overreaction or his reaction these days is very interesting to what was just unsealed. And I care a lot because we have a huge interaction. I was cross-designated with the U.S. Attorney's Office when I was a prosecutor, as a state prosecutor. We have a lot of interaction between the state and the feds, and there's a lot of unanswered questions in terms of how this deal came to pass. But there's also been a vilification of some people. I'll share this with you guys, kind of inside scoop. There's been the vilification of some people that were the federal prosecutors that maybe were not like the face to the case in terms of their participation in what ended up happening with the sweetheart deal that Epstein got, and that ended up basically being what Ghislaine Maxwell is going to hide behind in terms of the non-prosecution agreement. And this was a case that was truly heavily driven by the Alex Acosta agenda and his role. But a lot of people also haven't given the level of scrutiny to Barry Krischer, who was the state attorney in Palm Beach County at the time, because he had to have had knowledge, involvement, and some type of say and discretion in terms of how that state prosecution went down as well. So I think that there has been an active push to unseal grand jury records, which from the criminal defense standpoint and the prosecution standpoint is unheard of. That is sacrosanct. You don't touch the confidentiality that applies to the grand jury. But I think in this case, I think it should be. I think if there was ever a case that merits pulling back the curtain behind the grand jury process, it's the Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell case. I think it's everything from nuts to bolts. I think it has to be exposed so people could see who had involvement, when, and how, because it's an injustice otherwise. And I hope that answers your question, Nicola.
So to everyone who is asking about the female laughter in the background, that is Tammy, who is on the phone and laughing uproariously about something with somebody. And so just enjoy it. I want to ask you about another piece of gossip, awesome gossip that you're privy to, which is the Michael Avenatti story.
Oh.
You know Michael Avenatti pretty well. What the fuck happened?
Oh, okay. So yeah, Ben, you know, because you know. I will say this about Michael. Exceptionally talented lawyer, and I'm not talking about any type of Nike extortion lawyering. Exceptionally talented trial lawyer, smart, knows the law, knows how to work a jury, knows how to work a room, knows how to work a judge. I mean, it just an exceptional lawyer. My interactions with Michael, always above board, always positive, always good. I do think there was some bizarre lionization, deification, is that a word? To deify him by the Democrats, by anti-Trumpers, whatever. It was very unhealthy. I do also, as somebody who appears on TV, I think that it was very unhealthy to give him that much TV time as well. But there was an effectiveness. And I think what people are also forgetting is, but for him, he was kind of like one of the banner carriers of this whole like take down Trump kind of movement, right? Like he was very effective and I mean, listen, and I'm not justifying his violation of attorney-client issues with Stormy Daniels, etc. But he was exceptional in terms of being effective. I mean, he was one of the first to really kind of work that anti-Trump angle that we've seen in social media that seems to be really been galvanized lately. And so, let's see, Michael Avenatti is in California right now on house arrest still with a guy who was questioned by the feds during a hearing that I listened to, who did him no favors. So let's see. I know he's still not in federal custody again, even though he's pending sentencing for the Nike trial. But he also has some other shit going on that's kind of big too. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's tough. I think it's horrible that he has been accused, and if it's true, of cheating clients other than Stormy Daniels. I think it's horrible. So I guess that's it. I don't know what to tell you, Ben.
You're muted.
I mean, look, I had nothing but bad interactions with him, and I was completely shocked by the allegations.
Wait, are you being facetious when you say
no? I was despite having had nothing but unpleasant interactions with him, I was completely shocked by the allegations, which are genuinely shocking lawyer conduct. And yeah. I actually like to have, be somebody who you have a serious professional relationship with in the context of sort of lawyer to lawyer, and also comment in the sort of same commentary circuit. It must have been really shocking. So what you say makes a lot of sense. We should take a few more questions before we have to wrap up. So John Bordeaux asks, having gone from prosecution to defense, are you interested in a judgeship? We've kind of already answered that question, but would you consider going on the bench at this point?
When I was nominated before to be a judge, I was nominated twice in the Bush administration, as you noted, Ben. I was much younger. And right now, as I turn 45 tomorrow, I think that am I substantively ready to be a judge? Yes. But do I think that I'd like to have a little bit more kind of miles on me? Yeah. I'd like to do more in the law. I'd like to live a little bit more. Just living and spending, logging days on this earth just makes you a different person just from the humanity perspective. And that's what troubles me a lot about the federal judges that are getting appointed right now. The stacking that's happening by Mitch McConnell. You got people that are just not qualified. And part of that is because they haven't lived.
Yeah, that's
part
deeply
of it is
true.
Because they don't have the experience. They don't know what it's like. And putting aside their very myopic, if not completely racist and misogynistic points of view and anti-LGBTQ, points of view. But right now, no, I want to live a little bit longer. Besides, too, I couldn't show up on the show and say half the shit I'm saying now if I were a judge. So yes. I
just think
Judge Article 3. You can do whatever you want for life.
Judge Phang curses on live
in lieu of
in lieu of shit show.
I would get JQC'd in 2 fucking seconds. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
all right.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kate. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, what about? So I imagine a lot of the. I don't actually. Do you practice mostly? I would imagine you practice mostly in state court, right? Or do you do state and federal?
Yeah, I'd say if you had to look at it, I'm definitely more in state court than I am in federal court. Which is fine.
And I don't know how federal. I don't know how does Florida run its judgeships in terms of elections? Are they?
Oh, so we're very interesting. So we have 6-year cycles or 6-year terms. You can apply. It is an exceptionally politicized process, driven heavily by the Federalist Society. If you do the application process through the Judicial Nominating Commission, and then the governor decides who you are.
Oh, well, that's kind of screwed up.
So I will say this. DeSantis, or Governor DeSantis, who's actively trying to kill us in Florida right now with COVID-19. He shut down the COVID-19 testing sites because of this hurricane tropical storm that's coming. It is, I don't know if you guys can tell. Does it look like it's bad weather? The answer is no.
Yeah.
So anyway, to DeSantis's credit, he has appointed to the state bench people of color, women of color. So he has shocked a lot of us in terms of his judicial appointments. All of that being said, though, there's been some crazy shit that's been going on. You can run for office. You can run for a judgeship here. And a lot of people in the voting electorate, they're not really educated in terms of who the people are that are running. So a lot of it just goes on name recognition. And then that makes you a judge for 6 years down here.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So
it's super interesting.
Tom McGuckin asks whether you are buds with Natasha Bertrand.
I
am.
Yes. How does he know? Yes, very much so. Natasha and I are good friends.
All right. So
I hope that's a qualifying thing because she's amazing. I love her.
Yeah. No. Natasha's great. And then the last question in the queue. Wait. Can you from Tony Kava? Can you expand on your thoughts regarding defunding the police? Not sure I agree with your definition. So were you engaged in a sort of creative reinterpretation of the phrase there, or were you? I couldn't quite tell if you were criticizing the concept or interpreting the concept when you talked about it earlier.
Okay, so let me be clear. I do not support the eradication of law enforcement or police force. 1, 2. I also don't support the idea that we steal from Peter to feed Paul in some way. I'm not going to talk to people about your city budgets, right, or your municipality budgets. I have no idea what's going on in those kind of individualized assessments. What I was talking about, and I apologize for not being clear, is the following. There is a certain emphasis that needs to be returned to the idea of proper training of law enforcement. You give these people a gun, right? And you give them the ability to go and arrest people, but they better know what the hell they're doing if that happens. And so I'm an advocate for making sure that there's the proper training for law enforcement so that when they do go out and they interface with the community, they know what the hell that they're doing. And that includes, and I've always been a proponent of this idea of continuing education. We have that as lawyers, etc. I think there needs to be an emphasis on that with police officers, making sure that they know what the status of the law is, case law updates, things so they understand what is appropriate and what is not appropriate. I also think use of force matrices, they're different in every police department, but there has to be some real consequence when you don't follow protocol or you don't follow a real reasonable use of force matrix. And I kind of hope that clarifies things. I think this defund the police thing has been bastardized in a way that makes it an untenable proposition for a lot of people. I thought it was unwieldy. I thought it meant the wrong shit. And I was never a fan of using the phrase in the first place.
Yeah, it was a very weird phrase. I was very I kind of when it came out, I was kind of wait, is that I felt like I heard a lot of the same criticisms that I heard for Black Lives Matter, which was people being like, well, of course Black Lives Matter. I'm like, but, I kind of even understood that the rhetoric of Black Lives Matter was much more obvious to me, or Believe Women is another one. No, we're not getting rid of due process. Believe Women is kind of just this kind of mantra to kind of get people into this mindset of kind of believing that that these claims of rape or sexual molestation or sexual harassment are real when the premise seems to be against them. And I think that there's I don't know, I just defund the police just seemed so direct in terms of it just and it didn't seem to parse. I just was kind of well, what do you want to do if you defund the police? That just doesn't seem even it seems like a non-starter. Yeah. So
I think the problem with it is that the people who coined the phrase meant it quite literally. And that is, no, I think there's,
Really?
oh yeah.
Literally take away all the money to the police?
There is among some of the protest movements, a real abolitionist culture. And I think that's nuts. But I think people actually, there's a core of people who do believe that. And then because a bunch of those slogans caught on, people had to reinterpret it to mean something that comported with their values, which didn't involve, not having a law enforcement apparatus. And so you had this phrase that people have been using to mean something other than what on its face it means. And, that's a little bit more than some of those words will bear some of the time. But I do think, a lot of slogans are like that.
I think
consider the slogan "Close Guantanamo."
Well,
right, which means literally close a single prison facility or detention facility, and it doesn't actually mean free any detainees.
Right.
But people use it to mean stop holding people
That's a great
in
example.
Military detention. People use it to mean this base has gotten embarrassing. Can we please move people to somewhere else? And I think there are these phrases that that come to mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Yeah, but I think isn't that just the perfect example though of where we find ourselves collectively? I think we've been pushed to extremism, whether you like it or not. And I think that kind of speaks to what I was talking about earlier, which is we kind of had to pick a side. And I feel like people are now getting to the point where they are latching onto slogans that are super extreme and that people are now taking literally. But I mean,
see, I just want make the presidency boring again. That's MAPA.
MAPA?
Make the presidency or make presidency boring again. MAPA. I just want the presidential candidate who captured it for me was Michael Bennet, who actually at one point said, if you elect me president, I promise you will not have to think about the United States presidency for 2 weeks at a time.
Well, what
And
did
I
Biden
thought,
just say? If you make me president, you won't have to worry about my tweets. Didn't he just say
no,
that
Biden just
yesterday
said
or
that,
something
but
like
it's I don't. That's so. I want to not think about the president at all, not just worry about his tweet. I want the president not to be in my consciousness for protracted periods of time, and I think this is what. And I live in fucking Washington. You know, I'm part of the inside the Beltway culture. I don't want to think about the president as much as we're all thinking
Oh my
about the
God.
president.
every day, multiple times during the day, right?
Right.
I would. Somebody said to me, actually, they were challenging me. They said, Katie, in the media, what are you going to do when Trump loses in November? And I'm like, there's plenty of shit to talk about. I mean, it's not like we only need him, because they think that we feed off of him and it's a great thing for us. And I think people are failing to understand, I don't need Donald Trump to be on TV. I don't need Donald Trump to be on social media. I don't need Donald Trump. In fact, our worlds would be so much better. I want to know the answer to the question, which is, how is it that SOB still hasn't been infected with COVID-19? That's what I don't know.
All right, so here is we have time for we're out of time, except that we have to do the poll of the day.
Yeah.
So Katie, what should we ask in the poll of the day? We poll the viewership, and we try to keep it civilized. So you know, so what do you want to ask?
Oh my God. As my dog barks furiously as the bicycle's rolling by. Wow, what do I want to ask? I don't know. Wow, you guys may be Johnny on the spot.
I know, it's really hard. I feel like we do this. We have to like kind of maybe give like warning.
Why don't we ask whether you should take a judgeship?
Oh my God.
Oh yes, definitely.
Should
All right, you guys can ask that. Why not? I don't know if I want to know what the poll results are. As I'm swigging my wine.
A judgeship. Is there an E in judgeship? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no E in judgment except for
No,
the
there
M.
isn't.
No E in judgment, but in
Yes.
judgeship, right?
Wait.
Yes.
My question for you guys, is it pleaded or pled?
I use them
God.
interchangeably.
Yeah, I do too. I don't get it.
Has anybody seen Robert Mueller lately?
Ben would know the answer to that question.
He's hanging out at Wilmer.
Really?
Really?
Yep.
Who's he
He's
representing?
back.
Is Bill Barr married?
Yes. Okay, here are your choices for the poll of the day.
That should have been our poll. Is Bill Barr married?
We don't want to go there.
I know.
Wait, did I see something the other day that is like that's coming out? Is there a James Comey movie coming out?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, right?
Are you getting royalties, Ben?
Why would I get royalties? I
don't know.
that.
Somebody portraying
You've written up like
Ben.
half of the
You
story.
know what the poll? Wait. I know what the poll question really should have been. Who should portray Ben Wittes
Ooh.
in a movie?
Wow.
with- in a movie dealing with what is it, Ben? You've now trading card. I'm trying to actually encapsulate this, where like now you're a part of.
Katie, look at the results of this poll.
Everyone thinks you should have you should be a state judge or you should have your own show on MSNBC. Most people think
your own show on MSNBC is
MSNBC.
kicking everybody else's ass. Yeah.
I agree. You'd be so much more compelling than any of the other lawyer women that they have on that are like constantly, that drive me nuts. This would be, it would be that would be awesome. I agree. I would
saw
love that.
Peg Baltz.
What? I don't know what
Peg
just
Baltz
happened.
says that Steve Buscemi should play me.
Oh no. I'm going to make this the poll for tomorrow though, Katie. Thank you for the
I would
idea.
like to know-
And I'm going to
please.
think about some people who should play should play.
Yeah, because to populate the poll questions, you actually have to have like options, right? So
No,
Yeah.
I know who I want to play me. I want Alessandro Nivola to play me because
Ooh.
Sandro is, among other things, the son of the person who brought me to Brookings, Pietro Nivola, whom I loved very dearly and whom I miss very much. And so
Oh.
and we're roughly the same height, which is to say, short. And so, so, yeah, that's
Oh.
my
Wait,
preference.
so is Baby Cannon officially retired?
Baby Cannon is retired in that Dancing with the Stars kind of way. She comes out on occasion. When the last time she came out on In Lieu of Fun, she literally destroyed my computer.
Well, that was
Um,
technically not Baby Cannon. That was technically new replica Baby Cannon.
3D printed
Printed
Baby
Baby
Cannon.
Cannon.
Wait,
I don't
how did she break your camera? I mean, break your computer?
ricochet off the target, shattered the screen. Um, it's all on
It was
live
terrible.
one In Lieu of
It was
Fun.
completely nuts.
And that
Wow.
yeah, and it was good. Um, so
Ben, we should create a TikTok account for In Lieu of, and then you can post Baby Cannon exploding things on TikTok.
well, you'll all be thrilled to know that, and I talked about this a bit on Rational Security the other day, but the brightly colored smoke grenades that I
yeah.
ordered from the catalog that I got Baby Cannon showed up the other day. So I have 8 brightly colored smoke grenades that look like a rainbow flag. And I'm trying to figure out what to do with them.
Wait. So when it goes off, when it goes
When you
off,
pull the
it's
pin,
a rainbow.
no, each one deploys a very large quantity of a different brightly colored smoke.
You should go deploy that on the front lawn of Bill Bar.
No, you see, like this is things that the Secret Service and the Federal Protective Service really don't like when you even talk about. But I'm thinking of on my own property.
I'm on a watch list now. I'm sorry.
I'm thinking on my own property, maybe on election day, just as a way of reminding people to vote. We will have 8 brightly colored smoke grenades.
That would be
And
amazing.
yeah. So, Katie Phang, it is like a thrill to see you. It's been too long. We last saw you over brunch in New York. And that's like got to be close to a year ago now.
No, that was like the last time I traveled.
Right, because it was. That's right.
You.
It's the last time I saw Kate in person too. Was our book trip.
It was so crazy.
Yeah. Because we've all been here since, so it's half a year. It's not a full year. And we will be back tomorrow. It'll be just us. Katie, come back anytime you want to help us grill somebody. And, we promise the tech will be as bad as it was today.
Ben.
Okay. No, you're supposed to do the setup for the.
Normally you say, Kate, what do we say? And so then I wait for it. But we don't have fun anymore. So in lieu of fun, we have cocktail dresses at home in our living rooms. We have baseball cards photoshopped with our faces on them, and we have rainbow smoke grenades to look forward to on election day.
We're excited about it. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye, Katie.
Thank you.